Hey, what's up everybody? Jake here and welcome to the hobby. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a really fun subject, and that is what is the best first high-end Pokemon cards that you may want to pick up. And this is for a very specific audience that I get questions about all the time. These are people that have been collecting Elite Trainer boxes and opening up booster boxes for a couple months now, and they are really excited about the hobby. They want to dip their toes into high-end Pokemon cards, and for me that means any cards that are over $200, because honestly, if you're spending over $200 for a piece of cardboard, that's a lot of money, and I would say that's a high-end product. In general, a good first high-end Pokemon card is probably between the range of $200 to $1,000, but let's be honest, that's a ton of money to be spending on Pokemon cards, and you have a limited budget. I have a limited budget. You want to spend your money wisely. So in today's video, I'm going to give you some recommendations for good first high-end Pokemon cards that you may want to start picking up. Obviously, this is completely subjective. If you want to go outside of my recommendation, you're welcome to do that. But let me give you an example of what I would consider a bad first high-end Pokemon card to pick up. And for that example, I'm going to use the Japanese Mewtwo GX prize card. This is a super cool card, and to the right Mewtwo collector, it could be an awesome addition to their collection. This card in a PSA 10 regularly sells for $800 to $900. And if you look at this card and you say, well, Jake, that's just a normal Japanese full art Mewtwo GX, why is it for that range? That's the exact reason why I think it's a bad first card to pick up, because it's very expensive, and from across the room, you're not going to be able to tell me why that card is really special. For the right Mewtwo collector, if they're adding this to their collection, it might make sense because it's a true prize trophy card. To get this Mewtwo GX, you have to enter tournaments in Japan to get and actually win it as a prize card. So it's very rare and prestigious. But for a first Pokemon card, a first high-end one, I would say this is probably a poor choice. For $900, you could do a lot better. So we're going to be talking about better value for your money. So cards that I think are going to look way cooler on display. We're going to talk about vintage cards, and then we're going to talk about the modern cards, because there's a lot of cool cards that I think are great bangs for your buck. Before we get started, I would like to give a huge shout out and thank you to Drip for sponsoring today's video. Drip has been a longtime partner of our channel, and I could not be happier with my time live streaming on Drip. If you'd like to check it out, I will be live streaming on Drip this Sunday, where we're going to be opening up Stellar Crown, Shrouded Fables, and Crown Zenith, and giving away a ton of cool booster packs to viewers. I'm reaching the point where I'm seeing a lot of viewers be repeat winner, which is super cool. We open up a ton of really cool cards for viewers just last week. Things like the Terapicos EX and Lacey Special Illustration Rare, as well as a plethora of really cool illustration rares were pulled for a bunch of our viewers. A huge thank you to Drip for sponsoring today's video. If you'd like to check them out, definitely click the link down in the description. If you sign up to Drip, you get an immediate $10 to $250 credit added to your account immediately. Most people will get around 10 to 20 bucks, but it'd be super cool if you get a $250 credit, because you can get yourself 2 free booster boxes immediately. Definitely check them out. They are a fantastic service, and thank you again to Drip for sponsoring today's video. So let's start off with talking about the vintage Pokemon card market, because it's cooled down quite a bit over the last couple of years, and it's a little bit of a buyer's market right now. If you want to pick up vintage Pokemon cards, they are much more affordable than where they were a year or two ago. There's just way more choices, and it's a little bit of a buyer's market, which is great for us. So let's talk about some cool cards that I can recommend. The first one I can recommend is something like the Japanese base set Blastoise in a PSA 10. This thing is going to look super cool on display, and you don't have to really worry about it being Japanese, because it doesn't take a genius to recognize that this is a base set Blastoise. It is even older than the English Blastoise, and this card in the PSA 10, we're talking about a card that is well over 25 years old, is super cool to have on display, especially one in gem mint condition. They are incredibly rare, and they're not too pricey right now. These are ranging for between $700 to $800, which is not bad considering that I had an offer for my PSA 10 base set Blastoise a couple of years ago for $4,000, and I did not take that. So who's the genius really here? Next up, we got ourselves another Japanese card, and that is the Japanese Neo Lugia in a PSA 10. This is the Lugia rookie card. It is super cool. It is the first appearance of Lugia, and it's going to look great on display. Most people can recognize the art immediately. This card in a PSA 10 is also below $1,000 right now, ranging for also between $700 to $800. You may be able to snipe auctions for even lower than that. So any way that you can negotiate down is always great. So maybe you can pick one up for $600. It's going to look good on display if you want to look for vintage Pokemon cards. Japanese cards right now are at a lower level than English cards, and they have better quality, sometimes even cooler holographic patterns, and comparatively they are going to be the same as English cards for a much lower price. Now, if you want some English Pokemon cards that are really cool, I would recommend some cards that are from the Dark series. These are cards like the Dark Charizard and Dark Blastoise. These cards are incredibly affordable right now, and there is rumor of the resurgence of Dark Pokemon coming into 2025, and if Dark Pokemons make a return, there could be a premium added to these cards. These cards are very affordable right now. You can pick up the Dark Blastoise in a PSA 10. It's so low, it's barely making it onto the list as a high-end card. And then the Dark Charizard is definitely a little bit more pricey, but even then you can pick up the Dark Charizard Unlimited version going for between $400 to $500 in a PSA 10. So these are cards that are very memorable, very nostalgic. All the cards that I've recommended so far from the vintage era are cards that are going to be immediately recognizable from across the room, and they are going to look eye-catching. They are going to be wow factors. If you have them on display, people are going to recognize them and think, wow, that is a cool card. You actually have that card? Isn't that card like 25 years old? And that's sort of the reaction you're going to want to have from people that are looking at your display case. So I think these are great options if you're looking for some vintage Pokemon cards. Once we start talking about more modern Pokemon cards, we are actually spoiled for choices because there's actually way more people collecting modern Pokemon cards than vintage cards. And there's actually so many cool cards that you can collect in this era that I think I have to start narrowing down my recommendations to cards that I think are going to be looking great on display, but at the same time are going to be less risky. These are cards that I don't think are going to dip in value anytime in the near future, and I think are going to be good evergreen cards. Evergreen cards are cards that are going to look great on display for the next 20 or 30 years because they are so cool, they are timeless, they are so good, they are truly timeless. So let's talk about some cards in this, and I know people love Charizard, so we're going to recommend one more Charizard card, and that is the Charizard EX promo card from the XY era. This card looks really, really good. There are other Pokemon inside of the art, and it is a true Fire Fanatics Pokemon. It is a super cool looking card, and there is also the Blastoise and Venusaur version. Both of the Blastoise and Venusaur are going to be harder to find in a PSA 10. However, in a PSA 9, they are incredibly affordable. If you are okay with just a little bit below Gem Mint, the card quality is not that big of a deal, but the value jumps significantly. A PSA 10 Charizard EX will probably cost you anywhere between $700 to $800, but if you're willing to get it for a PSA 9, you can find them going for below $200. It's just that these cards are starting to get a little bit older, and it's very hard to find mint copies of them because people didn't really keep good copies of their cards in great conditions. So the Gem Mint version has a premium, but if you're willing to go for a 9, the Blastoise, the Venusaur, and the Charizard are all incredibly affordable, and I think this set in a 9 is beautiful. They will look great on display, and people are going to immediately recognize them as eye-catching, cool display cards. If you want to go even more modern, there are a ton of really cool alt art cards that people know and recognize. The most obvious one is the Umbreon. This Umbreon VMAX is going to be a challenge to find in a PSA 10, but there are many other trophy looking high-end display cards that I think are going to look great on your display. Things like the Giratina, another one of the big 5, as well as the Lugia and the Blaziken. The Blaziken is definitely going to be the weirdest one of the bunch just because the art is a little bit out there, but I think that's why people love it so much. Same reason for the Giratina and the Gengar VMAX. These alt art cards are high-end chase cards from respective sets, and they are looking gorgeous on display, but the art is out there, and that's part of what makes them so desirable, is that the art is funky. It's something different, and it almost commands its presence. if you're in the room and you see this card, you almost are drawn to them because they look so cool. So if you're looking for cool alt art PSA 10 cards, the modern era is just spoiled for choices. Pretty much any alt art card in this era is going to look great on display. Finally, let's talk about promo cards, because there's actually some really cool classy cards that I want to recommend, and those are going to be the Great Felt Hat Pikachu. This one is incredibly affordable right now. There's plenty of copies of it. It's actually dipped down in price a little bit, and there are just a ton of copies of it out there. If you want one, you can find a PSA 10 copy fairly easily. They are not too expensive as far as a high-end Pokemon card is concerned, and in general, I don't expect them to go up in value. This is not an investment video. This is really just to add a card to your collection that's going to look cool on display. This card is well known. It is the Vincent Van Gogh promotion with Pokemon, and I love that the concept of it coming together. So if you want to pick up something that is just a cool looking art promo card, I can't deny that this card looks amazing on display. And when we're talking about art cards, if you are looking to something to really complement your area and you want a Pokemon card that's just to look great on display because you're an adult now, and that is going to be the Beauty Looking Back Pikachu, as well as the Swooping Crane Cramorant. Both of these cards look really, really solid. I love both these cards. I have them on background right now. They look great on display, and that's because this is where Pokemon cards are no longer Pokemon cards, right? A lot of the cards I've showcased on today's video are now just beautiful pieces of art, and that's what they truly are. So you're displaying an art piece rather than just displaying a Pokemon card. And these cards, the Cramorant card as well as the Beauty Looking Back Pikachu, have been slowly climbing up in value because there is a premium on them. They are kind of hard to find on the market now. There's actually less and less copies of them. They are incredibly desirable, and I can only see great things for them in the future. Generally speaking, the best first high-end Pokemon card is going to be something that really adds a lot of value to your collection at that price point. You don't want to pick up a card that is super expensive but no one really cares about. You want to pick up a card that is going to really wow your friends, and at the end of the day, you want to collect what you enjoy. So I hopefully have recommended enough cards in today's video that there's something a little bit for everyone. So let me know what your thoughts are. If there's some other really cool cards that you would like to recommend to viewers, leave them down in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.